It's been a long day. I'm just going to go ahead and reset his password.
Good to notice spokesperson.
Okay, so everybody sees that? Awesome. There we go. By the way, do you know what it costs when you go to reset a password? Anybody know what the average cost is?
10 cents.
No.
Oh.
You'll be shocked.
It's like $1,000.
It's about $40 per password reset. That's actually what it ends up costing you in resource. It's about 40 bucks. By the time somebody stops doing what they're doing, goes over and resets it, then emails you what it is, not that you're emailing the password in clear text, you know, it's about 40 bucks. So if your users you know, and in Azure you can go ahead and provide a self-service password reset option. Let your users do it, right? And it'll save your IT admins. Okay, so now I'm in, finally. So good old Watson here still has the server running. Wants to go ahead and add in a new virtual machine. And you're going to notice now that his choices are incredibly limited to what he can do. And so this is where the benefit comes down from, not only from my point of view, but from yours. Now you're not scrolling through this huge list to try to figure out what the heck am I supposed to install here. Everything's pre-configured for you, whether it be SQL Server, Red Hat, bringing your own. These are all customized to your environments. And remember that custom image that we created? That we added in the Visual Studio and everything else? That is all here for us. You can just go ahead and quickly build it out, and the artifacts are already selected. We can go ahead and add more, but the base is already there. And it only takes a few minutes for it to spin up, and they're off to the races once they're built. Done. Or you can have them already pre-built and claimable within that other section. Keeps it very simple for everybody. When you're done with it, you get rid of it. We're now past the time where we baby our servers. The new analogy going on is we have our dog, right? We love our dogs. You know, you saw mine. You know, they get sick, you take them to the vet. You know, you cuddle them, you probably spoil them a little too much. And then we have cows. When a cow breaks its leg, what do we do with the cow?
Eat it. Steak.
Right? Fine, we just have another cow, right? That's easy. So that's how we look at, now we're looking at virtual machines. When you're done with it, it's gone. We don't care. If it breaks, I'm not spending the time to fix it. Right? And you guys must hate that, right? Because IT comes up and says, oh, I'm just going to re-image this. And you go, no! Yeah. I'm sorry. It's fast. It's easy. And you should have a backup. And so that's how we look at this now. So it's a little different. We don't baby these things. Unless it's something that's really, really critical. When we're done, it's gone. If it's broken, it's gone. Just replace it. I'm not saying replace your dog. Because you love your dog, right? Most of the time. The last thing I want to show you from this point of view as well. So some of you have already played in Azure, correct? So you understand, you know what it's like to go and build out infrastructure in Azure. It's awesome. It takes time. You're doing it all manually the first couple of times. So you're building out your availability sets, you're building out your networking, you're building out your subnets, you're building out your storage. And then we have backup and disaster recovery solutions. There's all this stuff that we have to build out. And it takes time, and it's okay, it's fine. Here, when I go to build it, it's going to build a lot of that for you. You don't have to worry about it. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead, plus, I'm just going to do a dev DevTest Labs. Gonna go ahead and select it. I'm gonna go ahead and create. And again, if you're doing this yourself, you've acquired an Azure subscription, then you would go ahead and do this yourself. And you don't have to go through and add in everything. You pop it in your appropriate subscription and your location. Actually, we were talking about this at break. You're going to want, for the most part, to keep your data close to you or your clients, depending on how you're setting this up. You may not want to put all your data in the Japan East data center. You're going to have a lag. It'll take some time, so you want to keep it close. Now, that being said, you may also not want it in certain data centers because of other reasons. So you may opt to put it into Ireland. So you can pick and choose where you want your data to just sit and be aware of that. But I'm going to keep it close. The Canada Central is actually here in Toronto, and the Canada East is in Quebec City. Those are the two Canadian data centers. And then that auto shutdown, do you want to enable it? So you can do it right off the top. That way you never have to worry about it again. As soon as you create your DevTest Labs, that auto shutdown is automatic. Everything will shut down for you.
This is at the lab level, or this would default on every machine you create in the lab?
Every machine you create in that lab will be shut down at 8 o'clock, 12 o'clock, or whatever you set it to. I'm going to go ahead and click create. This will take a few moments, so let me just go show it to you in, I'm going to pull it off from the resource group. So this will actually create a resource group for you. That's how we group everything together in Azure. Is it there? There we go. So when I created this DevTest Lab last week, it created everything I needed for it. My auto shutdowns were already created for me. It went and included those are my images that I have. It created all the storage accounts that I needed. And it included all my networking as well. So that was already created for me and provisioned. I didn't have to do any of that as soon as I created that DevTest Lab. Whereas outside and in Azure production, you are creating a lot of that yourself and managing that.
So this is the way you kind of can create like a group, because nobody has a web server, a container box, and SQL on the back end. So you could have like multiple VMs inside this thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can go ahead and add all that in. Again, I want to pull some of that information because I know it's right here. So I should have pulled it up over break, but I forgot about it. So we're getting there.
Okay.
Yes, where we can provision that whole environment in DevTest Labs. Close, not quite.
Okay.
Can you export the specifications of this build into a script file?
Yes. Yes, so if I go, and this is pretty well the case for anything in Azure, you can go ahead and do that. So if I go ahead, okay, so my deployment succeeded. Will this one let me do it for here? No, I didn't think it would. Let me just go back one. Come on, baby, let's go. Let me go, I have to go all the way back. So if I click into a virtual machine, access control, I can't do it from here, sorry. I cannot do it from here. I was wrong. But we did do it. Log search, there it is. Sorry, there's my automation script. So yes, we can go ahead and you can export all this. You can do it in PowerShell if you want. You can do it in the command line interface. So whatever works for you. And then you can go ahead and pull all that.
Is there a cost for this, like, regardless of the VMs, is there a cost to run this, to leave this up and running even though you're not, you've deallocated those VMs, but you want to leave this where it is in one of the training segments? What's the cost on this?
I don't think there is a cost today. I would like to double check that just to be sure. So you can have the basic environment set up and ready to go. But yes, you will be charged for the VMs and the storage. But the service itself, I don't believe they're being charged on. Now, if you start adding into your network, wherever it went, you start adding in gateways and IP addresses, obviously you're going to start incurring costs, right? Back to the no frills airline. You want an external IP, public IP, you're paying for it. You want to have a gateway, you're paying for it. You're going to do express route, you're paying for it.
If you have a, excuse me, if you have a QA environment that's loaded with robust test data, you want to bring that into, refresh that into dev between machines. Is there like any costs or is that easy to do?
You can definitely move data in Azure, depends on how you're going to, or don't charge and move it in.
Yeah, but between, I don't think this would make sense, but like between the QA environment inside of Azure and the dev environment inside of Azure.
So, now, can we do it through the DevTest Labs? I'll have to check. In regular Azure, we can definitely peer our networks. And so we can definitely move things around. So typically you would have a dev test subnet or an actual subscription. And yes, you can move things around. It's limited. So be very careful on that because certain things can't move across subscriptions if you're going to do it that way. Or you could have them in different virtual networks. And you can peer those. So yes, you can move things from here to here in a peer network. Yes, there are ways to do it, definitely. Again, not really much different than what you do on-prem. It's just how you design it. How's everybody's heads doing? Okay? Probably a little more IT pro-ish than I'd hoped. And I hope that's okay. Yeah, okay, I got an okay. I've got some, oh my God, this is just too overwhelming. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go code something, make me feel better. I'm joking. Again, I was married to a programmer. I think I have right to make all the fun I want. I definitely pick on him when I train across Canada and deal with IT pros because they just have a it's a little different here. So, any other questions? I'm going to find out about the template that's on my hit list to do. I'll look up that information tomorrow.
Question at the very beginning, you were talking about the disks and always attach disks. I know about the D being temporary, but you also mentioned the C drive. So what's the risk of having things on the C drive? Because that would be typically where you install your applications.
Yes. So Microsoft recommends, and best practice is you do not install anything on C drive unless you absolutely have to. In a virtual machine environment, we have 6 copies by default of your virtual machines across 2 different data centers. That's what it used to be. I'm outside the Microsoft realm, so some of the stuff I'm not as current on. So they are persistent. And it's designed that way, so if there's a problem with your virtual machine in your first data center, there is a corresponding data center that should pick it up. All right?
Which means it's a different potential disk.
It's replicated.
Yeah.
Okay, so always keep that in mind. That is not your backup. If you have a fat finger delete on that virtual machine, that fat finger delete carries through all those replicas, and they're just replicas. Replica is not a backup. So again, Microsoft recommends not installing anything on that D drive or C drive unless you absolutely have to. Always attach a data disk, which I did not show you how to do, did I? So that is something to keep in mind. So let me go quickly back. Which one am I in? I'm in this one, okay. Just trying to figure out which user I'm in. So in this case, if I had a virtual machine, you see where it says my data disk? I've got one already attached. But if I was to go into my virtual machine, I can go ahead and add in data disks, and this is what you're going to do and attach them. Okay, all your data should be kept there.
It's not something that they really are mentioning.
No, it's not one of those things.
Yeah.
Now, when you pull up a virtual machine in Azure, you'll see that second disk there, that D drive, and it will have a big warning on it. It will say warning, data loss, and that's the name of the file. Then you double click into that, and then it goes into the details saying anything on this disk is subject to loss. If that happens, don't call me. You've been told.
I've never seen that notice before on my VM, so.
On Windows VMs, it's definitely there.
I've seen it.
On the Windows one, yeah, Linux I'd have to look into, but on the Windows ones, it is definitely there. Keep that in mind. Always, always, always attach your data disk. When you go to do this in 6 months, please have a little bell ringing in the back of your head. She said something. What the heck was it? If you don't remember, find me. Tweet me, whatever. I will hammer it back into your head. Also, remember, you are responsible for your own backups. I don't know how you're handling your backups now, but just because it's in Azure doesn't mean it's being backed up, which is another common misconception, that you assume that it's there. Oh, it's okay, it's fine. Unless you're using SSD drives and virtual machines, not so much. So keep that in mind as well. Any other nitty-gritty little questions?
You mentioned custom artifacts that you could build VMs with custom artifacts.
Yes.
So you can import those, and those are only for your company proprietary. Like they're not going to go on some global marketplace or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
No, you can bring in your own repos, however you want to handle that, and yeah, you can pull in your own. So you can totally customize this. I was just doing with what was out of the box. This is totally configurable to meet your needs.
Is that on the subscription level or on the actual dev test level? Like for those artifacts, so that.
That would be in the dev test.
Okay.
For regular VMs, I've never seen the artifact option.
Okay.
Don't know. But typically you'd build it out and add in everything, and then you could save off that image. So that's how you could handle it.
And
And
so you
create
create
it.
your golden.
You agree, yeah. Yeah, so you could do it that way. So that would work. In real Azure. I don't know what to call it. Real Azure virtual. I don't
Real
know.
world.
Yeah. Anything else? No? Okay, so I've got one question I'll follow up on. Feel free to reach out if you want more information on this or anything else about Azure. There's some really cool stuff going on in Azure right now. You guys are all Microsoft partners, have access, right? Come on, a little more enthusiasm here, guys. Let's go. Right? You all have access to the partner network. Really? You guys would really, you just don't have it. Okay, so go on Microsoft Virtual Academy. You will find all the cool stuff that's happening there. I'm not talking from an IT point of view. Document databases, machine learning. Again, infrastructure as code, huge. If you're looking for job security, take a look at infrastructure as code and start getting familiar with some of this other back-end information, because it's all cattle.
What do you mean by that? Like, just in case people don't.
Infrastructure is the code.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is, again, handling as cattle. Going through and click, you saw me go through and click to create that VM. That was in dev test. That was short and sweet and to the point. If you're in regular Azure, there's several steps you have to take, and you have to build it all out. And building out an environment can take several hours. What we want to get away from is that. We want to be able to go ahead and provision code and write all the scripts, all the templates, and say, push it to Azure, here. And then what we want to be able to do is say, hey, what's changed in the environment? Put it back to where it should be. Because someone went and did a fat finger delete over here on my SQL server and messed it up. I want it back to the original state. And we want that to be constant. So you'll see Chef and Puppet and a couple of those other ones really starting to come out and play now. So that's what we're looking for. So it's continuous deployment of your environments. So you're already there. Right? You understand how all that works. You just need someone else to help with the bits and pieces. I think for us who are doing bits and pieces, this is just like, oh man, this is hard. Because I think we think differently. And just, I think we all see the same result. I think we get there in different ways. So infrastructure as code is definitely coming up and starting to become a bigger play.
Do you ever see Microsoft targeting this for home users? I mean, at work, I'm a dev test kind of person. At home, I'm an unpaid IT pro. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing the Christmas, yeah. Yeah, don't you love that?
Exactly. So I don't know, is it a crazy thing to, contemplate an Azure kind of?
It's not going to work for
home users?
visual reality games.
Sorry?
It's not going to work for visual reality games. Right?
No,
For
no, that's
shooter
true.
games.
No,
right?
nothing to
'Cause-
that
yeah.
Office type, similar things.
So backup
Have you got
definitely.
no kids then?
Backup definitely. So you can leverage Azure Backup for your desktop clients. So you could definitely use that. That works out quite well actually for that home environment. Really what you'd be looking at, again, depending on what your home environment is like, is probably leveraging more of the Office environment, which the nice thing is here, I'm not going to get into it, but if you were using Office 365, you already have Azure.
Mhm.
It's already it's all pivoting off that Azure Active Directory, so you're halfway there already.
Mhm.
So in that case, if you want to start some type of streaming service, I mean, you can definitely leverage Azure for that. My concern would be your home environment. Can it handle it?
Mhm.
Probably not, because we're just dealing with home broadband. But definitely, if you want to create a file share for your movies, right? Like what was the Microsoft product a couple of years ago?
Nice.
Movie server,
Meetings?
media. That's it.
Yeah.
I have friends. What they've done is they've taken the newer versions of Server or even Windows 10 and used storage spaces to recreate that. So where you're taking basically block-based storage and you're just adding it to the server and you're pooling it, and then you're just slicing and dicing it and dipping it up as required. You can do that in Azure. But again, the question then becomes, how are you going to get it down? And is it realistic
Mhm.
for the costs that are associated with it?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's nothing saying you can't do it.
Probably the pushing it up rather than the pulling it down, because that's what's limited,
Yeah.
right? Your upload is less than 10% of your download.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think we're there yet. There's certain services you definitely can use. Like I said, backup. Backup is actually one of the few services where it's not charged to bring it back down. And it is only one of the few. But you can definitely install Azure Backup on your desktop clients. So when your father-in-law says, I've lost everything, I got it all. And that's automated.
Is there a good website for IT pros to exchange information and ask questions, like Stack Overflow?
Yep, Stack Overflow is awesome. There's a couple of good ones. I like Stack Overflow. To be honest, I'll take to Twitter and I'll ask questions there. And there's a huge Azure community. We're talking about Chris, whatever his name is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's some really good people on Twitter who will help you. If you just tweet them and say, hey, what about this or what about that?
MSDN Forums has a lot of MVPs hang out on
Yeah, that's another good one.
I found even if you just use the hashtag Azure, the Azure support team tweeted me back within about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
They were all over it.
Yeah, and I will say, when I walked into Microsoft, I was expecting a different beast, because on the outside, as a consultant, I was so used to being pushed down. This is the way you're going to do things. And then when I got in there, I found it very different. It was really surprising. So we would have calls with the Azure backup team, the engineers, and they're going, "What do your partners want?" It's like, whoa, you're asking me a question, and you're asking what the partners want. So I find they're a lot more responsive now, and that's another way. So Twitter, they're definitely, if you have a question, is it not MS Thorny? Yeah, but there's one for Azure. There's support there. And if you just do like a general question and hashtag Azure, you'd be surprised at how many people will come back to you with help. It's a really good community.
There's Azure Cat, the customer advisory team.
Yes. Yeah, there's definitely a few. You guys don't really deal with disti at all, do you? Distributions like a Tech Data or Ingram Micro? No. Okay. So they have good help too. But again, typically you wouldn't be reaching out to them. Anything else? Good, okay, well I hope I showed you something new and kind of exciting, a little bit of fun. I know it wasn't coding, I'm sorry.
That's great.
But you-
Thank you very much. All right, we'll do our swag draw now. Should I knock everything?